our guest this evening has been eagerly awaited. He's actually joined St. David's 52 years ago in 1969, and he remembers that date because that's the year his daughter Jenny was born. So he raised 3 kids, more or less, at St. David's. Probably had kids that were friends of some of you, like maybe the Allens. I don't know whether your kids about the same age as the Pops. But he married Nancy in 1974. 54. They love water. So one of the things that they like to do is they like to sail, be by boats, swim. They got all 3 of their kids up on water skis as early as 6 years old. That's just mind blowing. So lots of different lake homes along the way. They ended up at a North Long Lake up near Brainerd, and then Grays Bay. And they've been just great, wonderful members of St. David's all these years. And Lamar's been on just about everything. He's very active still, which is really great. And he's going to tell his story about his pandemic years. So let's welcome our guest storyteller, Lamar Pop. Yay, Lamar. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to be here with everyone. And hopefully we'll have no more technical problems. I'm here representing the senior element of St. David, I understand, to give my impression of what happened with COVID-19 in my family. And first off, I just feel that we certainly have a plague of biblical proportions like none other. And God is certainly coming to remind us of his judgment coming and his promises, and that he sees a world in disarray, for sure. But COVID-19 in my life is very much a year of many different activities that showed God was instrumental in my life so many ways. First off, Nancy, of course, for 13 years, she's had dementia, vascular dementia, and the last 7 have been pretty tough. She actually was, I feel that she was a blessing from God, a real gift that I had with me for 66 years. So I feel very fortunate that we had that gift. And now he's taking her back. But she had fallen down and broken out a bunch of her teeth, and she was a real mess for a while. And we had her in rehab, and she would get stronger and try to get out of her wheelchair, and she'd fall. They had no restraining techniques in the facility, and that's the way they operate at all times because of the law. So it's very hard for someone that has been debilitated to get better. But she finally did, and she got very strong. And the week after she came back, I was talking to a neighbor of mine. I was out for a bit from the apartment, and all of a sudden she's gone. And like, where did she go? And all of a sudden we even had the police looking for her. She was gone for over 2 hours. I had put hospital socks on her that have grips on the bottom so that she wouldn't fall, because that's what she fell in the bathroom. She slipped on the floor. Well, anyway, they found her. We received a call from the restaurant Maggie's, and you're probably all familiar with Maggie's. And he said, "Is there a patient of yours or a resident that's missing?" And we said, "Yes, there is." So we quickly went down there and found Nancy. One of the other patrons had bought her a dinner, and she's sitting there eating. And we said, "Well, let's go." She said, "No, I have to finish my dinner." So we got her back and got her into the apartment. And the next day, Folkestone management came to me and said, "Lamar, you have to make a decision. You can no longer let your wife have any freedom like that. It's 24/7. If she gets away again, I'm afraid you'll have to leave because it's against the law. So write a note to us as to what you're going to do about it," which I did. I said, "Well, I'll put her in memory care now. I'm gonna have to do that. Well, I decided to bar the door with an alarm and drove a screwdriver under the door, put a toolbox on it, and put a wheelchair and a ironing board in front of it. At night, I have a CPAP, so I can't hear very well. Well, I had to go to Mayo that week for my physical. And I knew I couldn't stay overnight because of COVID. So I arranged to get up at 4:15. And Lisa, my daughter, was going to come at 5 to take care of Nancy. I got up at 4:15 and the door is ajar and she's gone. And she had evidently had just left. It's a real God thing. And I rushed down the stairs, and there I saw a police car, and Nancy's in the police car. They're ready to escort her to the ambulance. She had fallen. She'd again run her walker down there, and she had fallen on the street. They patrol the street periodically to keep order, and that's how they found her. But I got to the police car, and I said, "That's my wife." We said, "Well, take her home." So I took her back, and I knew that now I had to do something for sure. So I tried to get her into the memory care at Folkestone, and they were filled. It's very hard to get into memory care facilities because they're small facilities. But I did get her into the one at Spring Park, Presbyterian home there. And right away we had an apartment for her, and I furnished it. And then they said, "Well, she's going to be quarantined for 14 days." I said, "You can't do that to her. She's never been alone like that for a long time." "Well, that's what it is." I said, "Well, I have to be able to see." "No, you can't." Finally, they allowed me to be a special compassionate caretaker, so I could see her 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. So after she'd been there a couple of days, I went there to see her. I thought this is going to be the worst day of my life because I put her away. She looked at me and said, "Lamar," she said, "did you wear those pants to work that way? They're all wrinkled." I said, "But I didn't have anyone to press them." And she said, "Well, I'm in a hospital, you know." Well, she had reverted back to the days when I traveled. She was used to being alone, so it didn't bother her. So that was a relief to me. So she finished her 14 days, and I came to visit her, and she said, "I'm going to go home." Home to her was going to Ottumwa, Iowa. She said, "These people out here, they frighten me. I want to go." So I knew I had to leave her there a while to readjust, which I did. Came back a few days later, and she had finally adjusted to the environment. And after I was there just a short period of time, she said, "Well, I'm very tired. Can we go to my room now and I'll lay down?" So she did. I sat at the foot of the bed. And I looked at her and I said, "Nancy, I love you." And she said, "I love you too." She said, "You know, I think that's why we've gotten along so well together all these years." And that was the last word she ever said to me, because in the middle of the night, she had a massive stroke, couldn't talk, and couldn't swallow. And we didn't want to put her on a feeding tube, so hospice, here we come. And of course, that's a whole scenario as well. How do you conduct hospice in COVID times? But I was finally able to have it in our apartment. So I could have outside people come in and I could have any visitors I wanted. And it worked out so well. So she lingered about 10 days, and she was escorted out of Folkestone. They have a very nice ceremony they perform when people pass. And all of a sudden at the door, there's about 30 people that work here. They're there to give eulogies about Nancy. And it was so wonderful. I just felt so relieved that it was done so well. But then the next step is, okay, a funeral. Well, we can't have any funeral at the church, as we know. And so David Lee, the place I went to arrange for the funeral service, first off, I said, "David, do you have a blue casket?" And he said, "No, but I'll get one." I said, "Well, that's what it's got to be if you're going to handle Nancy." She had prepared her funeral 10 years prior. She arranged it. She wanted grandchildren to be involved in it. She knew the songs she wanted sung, everything about it. She wanted blue casket so she could see blue when she died. And so then we found out we could have a ceremony right there in that facility. And I said to Catherine, could you come and conduct this service? And she said, yes, I can. So she did. And we live streamed it to people all over the country. And it came out so well. I was just so pleased with it. Yeah, it was just for our family. And eulogies there were made by the grandchildren. And then we jumped in the hearse and went to the cemetery, which was Groveland Cemetery, where Catherine had just conducted a service for Don DeKind, if you recall. And we got to the job site. We got to the cemetery site, and there was a eulogy arrangement made by the older people in our family, and it was so wonderful. And we had a bagpiper playing while we were there. Nancy loved theater, so we gave her a good send off. So that turned out to be really special, and I can't say enough for the ending of it. But COVID caused I think the hasten of her demise, because she had been going to a daycare center, and there were children involved, and she would be there 4 hours a day for 3 days a week, and she would read to the children, and she had long-term memory, and she was quite a religious person, and they had a lot of religious books and things, and she would get into that, and they all enjoyed it so much. They had they would come and perform as a children's program at the care center here at Folkestone. And they did this 2 Christmases ago, but the children didn't want to go until Nancy could be part of it. And they had to go get her, and she's there. I have pictures that she was the only adult there with these children and the leaders. It was so wonderful. And when we would walk on the street by the facility, the children are outside playing, they'd come up there and say, Nancy, Nancy. It was just so wonderful. Well, COVID came, they cut the program out. It was an experimental program, the adults with the children. And from then on, she just deteriorated and wanted to sleep. And then that's when she got into the wandering that caused all the problems that we discussed. But that's sort of why that COVID was really major in making that happen during this year. Other things in our family, our 2 oldest, or our 2 of our grandchildren, one graduated from Iowa State and another one from high school. And of course, couldn't be involved in any of their festivities. They were isolated, and it was a sad affair for such a thing to happen at that time of the year. And then we had another situation where we had 2 great granddaughters. One was just born 2 months before Nancy died, and the other one was 2 years old. But again, we couldn't enjoy to see their early growth that would take place with grandchildren. That was always a sad kind of thing. But and then I had a good friend in the Navy that I was very close to, and he and his second wife at a place in northern Minnesota, and all of a sudden his health deteriorated greatly, and he had to be taken care of 24/7, and his wife was doing it. All of a sudden, they decided that they would close down their cabin and move to Indianapolis. They got to Indianapolis, and they went into a condo, and they wanted to paint it, and they brought a painter in, and the painter had COVID. And COVID hit Don's wife, and she was deathly ill. And Don couldn't understand it because he was being taken care of by her completely, and she couldn't understand why he didn't understand what she was going through. And anyway, it was a mess. Her daughter came in and split them up, and called Don's son in Minnesota to come and get him, and broke the family up. And it was really sad. And Don really had a hard time with that. I won't go on further with that, but that was caused by COVID. Here at Folkestone, people were isolated greatly, and most of them didn't want to put their nose out of the door. So it was a long time to be lonely. And as we know, the percentage of deaths among the COVID people was 80 and older, than 89% of the deaths. Fortunately, the control that was done here in Presbyterian Home was outstanding. We had very little trouble. But just down the street at Meridian Manor, they had to close it down. They had so many COVID cases. They weren't taking care of the elderly people. And of course, the young children that are being exposed to their education for the first times of their life weren't able to do that. And what a setback. It would be really so difficult. So I had a way to deal with it pretty well myself. I felt fortunate. We played bridge using technology. And we normally would be playing at the table, but now we're using the computer. We had used our phones and we were able to play just like being together. We did that 3 times a week and it was just wonderful. Then at Christmas Eve, I was all by myself, but I have a portal. I don't know if you know what a portal is. It's put out by Facebook. It's a camera and it like a Zoom. I was able to bring up my daughter, Jenny. I could see her home and their family. And they were opening their gifts. And I would open my gift, they could see me, and it was just like I was there. We had dinner together. I had my dinner, they had their dinner. After 2 hours, I was exhausted, just like I'd been there. That was technology, and it was this kind of neat thing. So those are the kinds of things I was able to walk a lot. And I did do some snowshoeing. I snowshoed sometimes 4 miles at a time. Every Saturday with my daughter outside in the Mendota Heights area. So I was fortunate to get out quite a bit. And I fortunately also got my COVID shots before anybody, well, the care center people got it here right away and the workers, but people in independent living, they didn't take care of us. And there were so many people here that are really in a bad way and unable to take care of themselves, and yet they weren't being taken care of. So we even had to appeal to the governor. And finally, we got it through for them to get COVID shots. But I got mine sooner because of the VA. VA sent me a letter, and I had mine. I've been out about 8 weeks already without any problems. So it's been pretty wonderful. I just want to say that actually this gave us the time to reflect on our lives and our family and our friends and realize how important they are and how important our friends are at St. David's and what a great job Reverend Catherine does holding us all together, as well as each of you, such as Nan and Guy, all that you do to contribute to make the place that we have to worship so wonderful. And all I can say is I hope that we have a way to deal with becoming more inclusive in this world. The diversity is just overwhelming, and as we know right here in the city of Minneapolis, it's really sad. But that pretty well concludes what I had in mind to tell. I'll pass the wand on back to Nan.
Well, Lamar, you're the picture of resilience and just, yes, everybody was just like so wonderful. And you took such great care of Nancy. I mean, oh my gosh, to have somebody like you in our lives is just a total gift. So we'll take a few minutes to get some feedback and then we'll open it up for some questions. So any comments for Lamar based on what he had to say? Karen?
First of all, Lamar, I just want to tell you how grateful I am for your story and that you shared it with us. And I want to say that during COVID and even just before COVID, it was so hard to navigate how to take care of our loved ones, especially those who were so vulnerable, and whether to keep them at home and, you know, block the door, put bells on their walker and try your best to hear them. I totally relate to your story. And I think, you know, we all just try our best to take care of those people that we love. Sometimes it just doesn't feel right to put them somewhere else. And yet when you have to, you just do your best. And I really admire your journey and sharing it with us. It's not unlike It is very like what we've been through in the last couple of years. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Your
We've been
father,
walking
yes.
hand in hand.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah. Other thoughts for Lamar?
I'd just like to say, I think it's amazing. Oh, sorry, I thought I had my video on. This is Sarah. I just think it's amazing how positive you are about all of this. What a gift. It's just, you know, wow. I mean, in your talk, it didn't seem like you were like are down at all. And here you've lost your wife. And I mean, the spirit is really working through you, and thank you for sharing that joy with us.
Thank you. And right along with that, when you have a person like Nancy with dementia, I was actually grieving her for a long time.
Sure.
Because she was never the same person anymore. It was a different person. And so the grieving process was a long period. So at the end, I felt quite relieved and really at peace with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that many people say that too. It's like so sad, and yet there is that sense of letting go, you know, being able to let go of the physical person, but never the memories and everything else. Yeah, Sharon. Oh, you're on mute, Sharon. Just bring on audio. Yeah.
I just relate so well to what you said and the difficulty that the long journey it is, and yet the relief that comes when most people wouldn't feel that way. But when you've been through that long journey, it is a relief, and you've had a long time to savor the good and get ready for the loss. So thanks. And I know that you were in Florida and golfing, and I know that you play tennis still, and I've just missed you at Williston. So you're not just hibernating in your place of living either. So great, good to hear from you.
Thank you, Sharon.
How about some questions? We've got a few minutes for questions. We've got about 5-6 minutes we can have allocate to questions. Who's got a question for Lamar? It can come from what he said in the last year. It can come from the past even. Vita.
Oh, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. It's just so touching, and what a husband you are. I was interested when you said you got your vaccine early through the VA. I had not heard that the VA was getting vaccines out to folks earlier than you know, some of the public. So how did that work? Did they notify you that they had an availability?
Yes, I get my drugs from them, and I have a doctor there.
Oh,
So
okay.
anyone over 80 were taken care of immediately. Now, I have a lot of friends that are VA, are veterans that didn't have that contact. And I said, just call over there. And they called and they got in right away.
That's great. I saw Susan Taylor. You had your hand up.
Yeah. Lamar, you're going to have to join the bridge group when we get going again. Were you using Bridgebase online?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
It was really a fun way to do it. And I play bridge here 3 days a week. We just played today, as a matter of fact. And we just finally got back to playing at our tables again.
Oh, okay.
And we have 2 tables, and we have to have about 12 subs because, as you know, people here go to doctors. All the things interfere.
That's great. It keeps everybody's mind going, you know,
It does.
to add up all that stuff and everything. Other questions? Other thoughts or questions? Looking for hands here. So what we're going to do is we have been breaking into groups, and we'll have, we are going to break into groups and give a little bit smaller section of people to discuss some things. I'm putting the I wonder questions in the chat. So you can address these questions, or you can just go